Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe Illustrated. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and I am so happy to be back with you guys this week. March is here. G.I. Joe number 71 is here. There is all kinds of excitement going on. If you remember last issue, the team was split up. You had, who was it? Wild Bill and Crazy Legs and Maverick. They were out with three Dreadnoks, Zorana, Monkey Wrench, and Thrasher. They were in a C-130 crash with a bunch of refugees from Sierra Gordo. They crashed in the jungle. Meanwhile, Hawk and the rest, they had to hoof it out through the mountains with the ambassador from America. Meanwhile, the North American banana monopoly, Reed, I believe that's a stand-in for the CIA, they were cutting deals with General Villavaca, and Destro was cutting deals with himself. Destro was dealing to both the rebels and the North American banana monopoly because he's got to get his. He also he debuted 2 issues ago. He debuted his big, what do you call the Iron Grenadier look, the gold Destro. It's fabulous. So we got a lot going on in G.I. Joe, and this is a great wrap-up issue to this very fun arc with a lot of great character stuff. So I'm so happy that you guys came back to join me this week. Remember, if you're on social media, if you want to find me, you can go to @JoeOnJoePod. That's on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying this long run of Joe on Joe Illustrateds that we're doing? You want me to get back to the remainder of the cartoons, which we will. Absolutely we will. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you like about the show. Let me know what you hate about the show. Let me know if you want to be a guest on the show. We're going to, I need to get back to that. So we're going to get back to the cartoon somewhat soon. But for now, the Illustrateds are fun, and they're also schedule-wise a good fit for my schedule currently. Speaking of schedules, you guys got to make room in your schedule for the show sponsor, the Movies and a Meal podcast. Check this out. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not 2 movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. And that's for real. It's a fun podcast. Ben and the guys are there. It's a great listen every week. So please, 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 please give it a listen. We appreciate you and they appreciate you. Now, it's time, guys, as you know, on this show to start the show off with a little segment called
You Were Saying,
and check out what was in the theaters, what was on the comic book racks, the same month. That comic books, we're talking same month as release. Theaters, there's a weird time thing, we've talked about this. But this is a big month for Marvel, so we're going to jump right to it, guys. There's no other title to talk about except Amazing Spider-Man number 300, the first full appearance of Venom. Possibly the most important comic in the last 30 years. I mean, maybe Deadpool, New Mutants 98, maybe that edges that out, because I think Deadpool might be at this point, a bigger draw. Maybe we're talking Harley Quinn, but sheer comic book wise, let's see here. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it is a toss up just for comic books. Harley Quinn, while her first appearance is absolutely valuable and in demand and all that stuff, you know, she made her splash in the illustrated or in the animated cartoons, right? So if it's a heat between Venom and Deadpool, I can't think of any other more important characters than those three, really. So if it's a heat between those three, let's see. Okay, I'm going to take a stand here. I'm going to say Amazing Spider-Man 300 is the most important comic book of the last 30 years. And here's why. More than New Mutants 98. As far as like new characters. So this is a good debate to have. You can always have this. This issue absolutely more represents who the character of Venom is and who the character of Venom continues to be than New Mutants 98. New Mutants 98 introduced a character called Deadpool. He did not become who he was going to become for a good number of years. And when he became that version of Deadpool, that he currently is known as, you know, the wisecracking, fourth wall breaking kind of guy. When he became that, that's when he began to soar in popularity. Venom hit, and between the combination of a good story, great artwork, and a character that still is pretty well defined by the way he's defined in this issue, this singular comic book, really key and really important. He's changed and evolved, and he's become an anti-hero and all that stuff. But when it boils down to it, when you think of Venom, you think of Spider-Man's other symbiote alien, feeds on people from outer space, bonds to a guy, and is in love with this weird obsession, passion with Spider-Man. That's all here. That's all in this issue. I think that makes this one. Plus, the launching of McFarlane. Certainly, he was popular, but this book, sent it over the top. This book put him on everybody's radar. So yeah, I'm gonna say Amazing Spider-Man 300 probably the most important comic of the last 30 years. What about you guys? What do you think? I mean, there's a lot of contenders for it. I actually can't think of anyone bigger right now, but there's got to be some good contenders for most important comic. Walking Dead #1. That's price-wise, certainly that's worth more money, but that's because the distribution numbers were so much lower than that. So it's good. It's a good fodder. If you guys are hearing this, let me know. Let me know on social. Send me a tweet. Let me know what you think might be the most important comic book or influential comic book of the yeah. And when I say important, I don't mean like important, in the like those 9/11 comics and things like that. I'm not, or Love is Love, the wonderful comic book that raised a bunch of money. I'm not talking about like that kind of important. I'm talking about like influential, that launched 1,000 ships kind of a comic book. Walking Dead, maybe, because that certainly absolutely launched 1,000 ships, and absolutely launched a genre. I mean, so many zombie stuff, but did Walking Dead ride the genre? Was that recreated by Dawn of the Dead, the Snyder Dawn of the Dead? I don't know. I'm not sure the timing on that. So, anywho, it's a good debate. So, what's the last 30 years? And this is roughly 30 years. What's your most important comic book? So that's kind of fun. Let's have that. Let's hash that out, everybody. So, speaking of the devil and Mephisto and everybody that we thought was going to show up in WandaVision and didn't, Daredevil 254 is actually fighting Blackheart, who is the son of Mephisto. But Daredevil was involved in a lot of devil hijinks at the time. And it's a fun John Romita Jr. cover. How about that WandaVision finale, though? I loved it. Certainly no one's theories of random characters popping up, mine included. Don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing shade. I absolutely was there like, oh my God, it could be Mephisto. It could be Dormammu. Bringing it. I thought they were going to bring in the X-Men. Oh my God, which totally would have been amazing. But the story they told, I thought was wonderful. I thought it was really, really well done. I'm so excited to see Falcon and Winter Soldier too. But absolutely loved WandaVision. If you guys didn't catch that, it's all available for streaming right now. Absolutely do not sleep on WandaVision. It's fantastic. Muppet Babies 19. I mean, come on. What else do you need from a comic than Muppet Babies? Masters of the Universe 13. Now, this I do believe is the final issue of Masters of the Universe. This is that... there were the 2 issues, the Grave issues. Yeah, this is the final one. There was not a 14th. where, Skeletor, Here Lies He-Man. It was He-Man, Here Lies He-Man was the previous issue, and this is Skeletor lies, buried, or Skeletor lives, or whatever. It's like the two bookend covers. Very neat, kind of collectible these days. I recommend checking out that He-Man run. So let's see, DC has the He-Man rights right now. I don't know if they have the Marvel Comics rights, if they'd ever do a reprint. I think that'd be a fun series to get a nice hardcover omnibus on, because the weird thing then is Dark Horse has all the rights to the He-Man ancillary properties. So Dark Horse produces all those really, really great He-Man books, like Art of He-Man, collectible, like Art of the figures, Art of the show. They made the fabulous omnibus of He-Man mini comics. That was just great. I devoured that book. That was so cool. Years in the making. But as far as I know, no one's ever collected the Marvel stuff. I'm assuming because Marvel's, owns that rights. But then you see IDW doing the G.I. Joe stuff. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I would love to see all that in print is what I'm trying to spit out, guys. Let's see. Spectacular Spider-Man 138. Looks like Captain America and the Tarantula are fighting Peter Parker. I mean, this month is just overshadowed 100% by Spidey 300. Absolutely overshadowed, which is well deserving. I can't imagine anything that would be better. Speaking of WandaVision, West Coast Avengers 32, they are gearing up to the John Byrne run. It's not there yet, but I believe it's within, I want to say it's within 6 months, maybe, where John Byrne joins the team, and then he really starts that arc that the show WandaVision followed, with Vision getting kidnapped and becoming the White Vision and so on and so forth. Let's see, I'm flipping ahead a little bit. But Byrne, let's see, Byrne does the cover to 40. Maybe it's like 42. Yeah, it's 42, I think. Yeah, 42 is what it is. So we got a few issues. We got almost a year. West Coast Avengers number 42. One of our androids is missing. That was the start of the Byrne stuff. And that Byrne run is really great. Those back issues are heating up on the back issue circuit. They're absolutely flying off the shelves. So get your hands on them today. So that's it for Marvel Comics.
You were saying?
Now over at DC Comics. DC is going to live in the shadow of Amazing Spider-Man 300, except for we do have another milestone issue. That's fun. So Spider-Man hit its 300th issue, while Action Comics hit its 600th issue the same month. That's a lot of fun. I love Superman. You know this. I love Byrne. Love Byrne's work. I love his work. Sometimes he could be a bit of a something online. But his work is just dynamite. And this Action 600, it's a great cover. There's like 4 different stories in it. It's oversized. It's got a gold statue of Superman on the front. I think there's a fun variant of this too. And I'm not sure if they list that variant here on... I'm not sure if they don't seem listed online, but I feel like there was a fun variant because I remember someone asking for a variant of it in the store at some point. And what was interesting to note at this time for Action Comics, they were a monthly, or quasi-monthly. When it started, I don't believe it was monthly. It was like every 2 months, and then it was monthly, and so on and so forth. But for the most part of its life, Action was always a monthly comic book. Well, they decided to go weekly with it. And so this month in May of 88, you get Action 600, but then you also get Action 601, and you get Action 602. And Action Comics Weekly, as it was then branded, literally was a weekly comic book. Superman was actually relegated to just a 2-page spread in the inside of it. He was the 2 middle pages of the book. And Action 601 featured short stories. I believe they were 8-page stories by, let's see here, we've got Wild Dog, Black Hawk from World War II, Dead Man, Green Lantern, and the Secret Six. So and with the Superman middle page. So really, they put together the opposite of a blockbuster lineup to launch their Action Comics Weekly. The only the only character of note, obviously Green Lantern. And that reason is, I believe I was mistaken. I thought last month it was the last issue of Green Lantern. It actually is this month. Green Lantern 224. And this is the issue with the broken lantern on the cover. This is the last. So Green Lantern Corps was ending. And they shifted Hal Jordan's exploits into Action Comics. And I could only imagine what the thought process was to, at the time, Superman, super hot. You know, he had action, he had Superman, he had Adventures of Superman. And they relegate him to 2 pages in the middle. Okay. But then buttress it rather with Green Lantern, whose own book was failing. He hadn't starred in his own book for 2 years. And Wild Dog and the Secret Six and Blackhawk. That's not, it's not a recipe for success. It ran 35 maybe issues, which would be about 35 weeks. So it's like half a year, or maybe they gave it a full year. Pardon me for not remembering that. And I remember Nightwing had some extended action in it. We'll certainly see as we go along here month by month, but nothing super memorable from it. And, yeah, it's one of those weird footnotes. At the height of Superman's resurgence, let's get rid of him. 10 Nights of the Beast continues in Batman 419. Speaking of Blackhawk, that Howard Chaykin series continues. It actually concludes with issue number 3. Blue Beetle, this is his final issue in issue number 24. This is one that's notable for G.I. Joe fans. There's a book called Cinder and Ash that's on the shelf. Cinder and Ash #1. I've never read this, so I can't vouch for the quality, but I will tell you this. I know he's a Vietnam vet. I want to say it's some kind of like mercenary for hire book, but I don't know that maybe they did a collection of it years and years ago. I've certainly never seen it. I've never read these books, but let me tell you the creative team behind it. It's Jerry Conway writing it, and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is the penciler and inker. So you know this book is amazing. I promise you this would be a good book. If anyone out there has ever read Cinder and Ash, let me know on social at Joe and Joe Pod. Let me know what you think of it, because it's one of those books I've always been intrigued to read, but I've never seen it anywhere. I've never seen it collected. I can't imagine it's terribly difficult to search out on eBay or something. I've never looked for it, but maybe I'll do that when we get done recording here. Maybe we'll jump on eBay and see if I can find it, because it's always interested me. But yeah, I do know that he's a Vietnam vet. So it's got some G.I. Joe crossover appeal there, ladies and gentlemen. The Teen Titans are plugging along in issue number 43. Looks like Raven's up to no good. This is a fun one. Martian Manhunter #1. This is the Martian Manhunter's mini series. And it was his first limited series. And it was by, J.M. DeMatteis and Mark Badger. And this is the first time, if I'm remembering everything correctly, that they showed the Martian Manhunter, John Jones, they showed his Martian form to be something other than the big green guy. This is where the Justice League got that Gumby look from. Because he shows up in the Justice League in that form, and he's referencing, hey, I recently found my Martian form. And if memory serves, that's from this miniseries. And I believe they told kind of an updated origin for him in this, of the gods of Hronmir on Mars, and like the fire plague that actually wiped out his family 10,000 years ago. He's actually that old when he traveled here, traveled through time. I believe all that was set up in this miniseries, if my memory serves. This I've enjoyed his miniseries over the years. This was good. There was one with who was the artist on it? I'm blanking on it, but it was Martian Manhunter in like a 1950s style mystery. It was a 3-issue deluxe like bookshelf format miniseries. That was American Secrets is what it was called. And then of course the Martian Manhunter series from Ostrander and Mandrake, which was fabulous. And that's the one where they first established that, I don't want to say first, because they certainly may have touched on this in some other comics, but they really leaned into that he didn't just have the John Jones personality. He actually had dozens of personalities all over the world, and he lived in all of them whenever he wanted. Like he would just go to Brazil and live as a woman, an elderly woman selling, whatever she sells in the corner. Or, you know, he'd go to Spain and there he'd be a dance teacher or whatever. You fill in the blank. He had all these different personalities all over the world, and that's how he saw humanity. That was great. That was the Manhunter, Martian Manhunter series by Ostrander and Mandrake. Check that out. Superman's fighting the Silver Banshee again in Superman 17. He's also got Earth Stealers, Volume 1, which is I guess you'd call it a graphic novel. It's a deluxe format special. And this is, I believe, tackling climate change and pollution. If memory, it's been a few years since I've read it, but if memory serves, that was, it had something to do with raising awareness about the ozone layer. So that's kind of cool. And there we go. There we go. That's it for DC Comics.
You were saying?
All right. Now, 1987. 1988. Hold on. It's funny. I was on the wrong page. I was on the 87 page. And I was previously scanning, and I saw a couple movies that looked really familiar. I'm like, man, I feel like we talked about these movies, but I'll talk about them again because they're awesome. But we are in May of 1988. And on May 6th of 1988, Dead Heat with Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo. This is that quasi-horror comedy movie where the two cops, one gets killed, and I think it's Piscopo who gets killed first. And he gets, they're at like a mad scientist kind of, medical lab. And he gets shot, but then he gets exposed to the zombie formula. So he basically becomes a zombie. And he's rotting away, but they have like 48 hours or whatever it is to solve the murder. And then he's gonna, it's fun. It's funny. It's terrible, but it's kind of fun. There's a bunch of people in it. Vincent Price. Oh, Shane Black's in it. Martha Quinn, MTV VJ, Darren McGavin. Yeah. This is on Shudder right now. I know I've watched it in the last year, and I do believe it's still on Shudder, or maybe it's on Amazon right now, but it is available on streaming somewhere. Jack's Back. That was a weekend for scary movies. Jack's Back, which was James Spader as this is about the Jack the Ripper coming back, right? So Jack the Ripper like times travels and starts murdering people again. There was a huge fascination with Jack the Ripper in the 80s. And this is one of them. Another scary movie, the movie Salsa, which was about by the Cannon Group, about the salsa dance. That possibly might be the scariest movie of the weekend. Here we go, more skip. Now here, so May 13th, and movies I believe released on Fridays, so this makes a lot of sense. Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. This is, let's see, so this is not, because I know, so I got some friends who are major Friday the 13th fans, and so they know all this stuff. I think, wasn't 6 the one that ended with Corey Feldman? And then this one picks up with a different actor playing his character. I know, I'm so sorry, guys. I know I'm disappointing you. But 7, The New Blood. I can't keep track of these movies. I know some of them are genuinely good and genuinely better than the others, but it's hard for me to keep track of what's happening in the Friday the 13th movies, but I appreciate them. Another scary movie, though. Same week, the same day that Friday the 13th comes out, Maniac Cop comes out. That's awesome. A Larry Cohen movie featuring the great Robert Z'Dar, Richard Roundtree, Bruce Campbell. I've recently watched this trilogy. This was definitely on Shudder. I watched Maniac Cop 1, 2, and 3. They are awesome. Those movies are fabulous. They just roll right into each other of just a voodoo animated dead cop with just a huge jaw. Jake LaMotta is in Maniac Cop. That's crazy. We also got a movie. Oh, this is another scary movie. A movie called The Nest. I've never seen it. Don't know if it's any good. Julie Corman is the producer. I'm assuming that's a Roger Corman connection. And then there's also a movie called Not of This Earth, which is stars Tracy. It looks like Tracy Lords. Yeah, it is Tracy Lords. It's in her first mainstream role, and it's a remake of Roger. So apparently, it's Friday the 13th. That makes sense. So there were 4 movies released that day, all scary movies. May 20th, the movie Willow, also scary for its own reasons. That movie came out. I guess they're doing a Willow sequel TV show on Disney Plus. May 25th, Crocodile Dundee Part 2. Not very good. I don't remember liking this movie. Crocodile Dundee was foisted on us. I remember enjoying the hell out of the first movie and talking in all kinds of Crocodile Dundee accents for a good number of years. But I as a kid, remember seeing Crocodile Dundee 2 and being like, man, the bloom's off this Aussie rose. But you also had Rambo 3 on that same. Wow, these are some generational 80s movies. Because we also have Killer Clowns from Outer Space this month on May 27th. So May in 1988. Terrible movies, all awesome. Look at those movies we just read through, guys. Those movies are all really, really fabulous. Terrible, but absolutely like legendary. That's a fun month of going to the movies. I like it. So there you go.
You were saying?
Now, we're going to take a second and get into G.I. Joe issue number 71.
Now, mass is ready.
Thank you, Destro. And we got a great cover. Absolutely great cover that says a lot in G.I. Joe number 71 by Ron Wagner. Bob McLeod did the inks on it. If you guys remember last issue, we had a very similar, I like this, 2 months in a row, playing with the same like architecture of a cover where there's depth. There's the color red denoting it. Remember, there was the red handgun at Wild Bill's head. And then the colors were getting, lighter as they got in the background. That's the same thing's happening here. Thrasher's hanging out the door of an airplane that's flying. So you got really light details and light colors for the backdrop, the mountainous backdrop. And then you've got Crazy Legs holding him in the plane. And Crazy Legs is in this one, he's the red gun. This is a really nice bookend to the cover from, I'm going to flip to that because I'm going to enjoy this. Yeah, this is a nice bookend to that cover. You play these two back to back, guys. This is pretty cool because it's all the same. It's red and blue. It's red and blues and greens, red, blues and greens. This is kind of neat. I don't know that I've ever made this connection before. Let's see. Let's go back to 69. What was the cover there? Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Bear with me while I flip. 69. Yeah, I mean, 69 had the same color scheme because it had Duster on the red and the blue. But yeah, 70 and 71 really bookend each other really well. And it's Crazy Legs and Zorana helping to haul Thrasher. And you guys know this cover. I'll say it again. I love Ron Wagner's level of detail for G.I. Joe. I think this is like the optimal level of detail that a G.I. Joe comic deserves, needs, requires, grounds it in reality with also a sense of toyish cartoonishness. Works for me.
Yo, Joe!
Bailout. Script by Larry Hama. Breakdowns by Ron Wagner. Finishes by Randy Emberlin. Coloring by Bob Sharon. Lettering Joe Rosen. Editor-in-Chief Tom DeFalco. And editor Bob Harris. So remember Thrasher was really messed up from that C-130 crash. He had his face broken. He was unbuckled. So now we see he's got a broken arm. He's howling in pain on the ground. Wild Bill is actually doing the treating. I think Monkey Wrench and Zorana do not care at all about their fellow Dreadnoks' well-being. And this is a absolutely great, really great splash page. You got the smoking plane in the rear, Thrasher screaming, a nice profile of Crazy Legs. And in this corner, they don't even fool around. They just give you a nice corner box and sum it up. The G.I. Joe transport plane was shot down last issue after Zorana and the Dreadnoks, Thrasher and Monkey Wrench forced Wild Bill Maverick and Crazy Legs to take off by taking a busload of refugees hostage. I like here that, let's point this out, guys, they do not lump Zorana in with the Dreadnoks. The Dreadnoks are their own people. Zorana apparently is not a Dreadnok according to this update. Not that saying she's not, but she is different. Because she's separately included, because otherwise it would say the Dreadnoks, Zorana, Thrasher, and Monkey Wrench, but it doesn't. Lists are separate, so I don't know if that's important to anybody other than me reading it right now.
Yo, Joe!
Maverick comes running up amidst Thrasher's screams, and he's like, there's a busload of troops heading towards them. So they also have all these refugees. They have like 30 or so refugees. So they're really kind of up the creek here, guys. Thrasher's screaming. He's going to call the heat down on him. So Crazy Legs just bops him in the head with the butt of his rifle. He gives Wild Bill a look. Don't look at me like that. It worked, didn't it? Like, that's great. I love it. And what's great about that is Wild Bill acting like the senior statesman, showing some actual concern for all parties involved. He's the one that is trying to help set Thrasher's broken arm. And he's like, hey, man, we're all in this together. Why'd you hit the guy in the head? Kind of a thing. It's pretty great. So Zorana gets a plan. And I love that they use Zorana for this because what is she? She's the mistress of disguise, right? She's the person that's supposed to come up with plans to fool people in situations like this. Yeah, it really works for me.
Yo, Joe!
Now on the bus, this dude, who I don't know who he is, but he's one of the sergeants. Let's see if we get a name on this guy. I don't know what his name is. He's one of the sergeants. He's one of Villavaca's sergeants. He's calling in on their radio to General Villavaca. And he's saying, my unit is no longer needed to secure the border against the American ambassador because he's already escaped. So their job is now to search for survivors from the transport plane. And as they do that, 3 people come marching into the road, and they're wearing some refugee uniforms. We see one guy has a big mustache. You might think originally that this is actually Wild Bill. It's actually, which I did, but it is actually Monkey Wrench. And you could tell that you see a little bit of his Van Dyke, his goatee. See a little bit of that in that final picture. But you also see the broken nose, which is previously seen on Thrasher. And then you certainly see the pink hair by Zorana. And obviously they're whispering to each other in that last panel. So that confirms it. But you don't get that until the last panel. And they tell the guys on the bus that an airplane crashed near their village. And the gringos from the plane broke my brother's arm. And I will take you to them if you will shoot them all. That's awesome. And as I was reading this, a part of me was like, I wonder if she would be okay with them shooting them all and then just escaping.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, around the bend, what I dig about this issue is it's pretty, Larry's a king of kind of doing multiple plot lines and stuff. And he pretty much sticks to this one for this whole Sierra Gordo arc. It's pretty much all that's happening here. So we've already wrapped up the ambassador stuff. So now it's just a point of getting these guys out of Sierra Gordo. We touch a little bit on Destro a little later, but that's only because it ties in with these guys. So this is a nice focus on all the members involved in this issue. So the Joes are hiding along the side of the road with the refugees. Crazy Legs is expressing, skepticism, we'll say. And Wild Bill's like, come on, let's, we're going to see him through. And we see that on the bus, Monkey Wrench, Thrasher, and Zorana are seated together, and Thrasher is knocked unconscious until she pops a ammonia ample, like smelling salts, under his nose, and punches him in the arm, but not before Monkey Wrench firmly puts a entrenching tool, like a little collapsible shovel, into his good hand. So he wakes up to his broken arm being punched, and he's got a weapon in his other hand. Now, if you know Thrasher's file card, you know that he's mentally unstable and violently dangerous. So this results in him jumping out of the seat and beating the hell out of every single soldier on that bus. Because that was the problem that Joes are facing here. They were on the side, they were outnumbered by all these soldiers, and they had all these potential hostages. So the only way we're going to get past these guys is something like this.
Yo, Joe!
Thrasher does a good job. He is literally just thwacking everyone on the bus. Zorana and Monkey Wrench are lifting no fingers. And the bus is half sliding off the road. Thrasher gets up and he throws the bus driver out the front of the bus. It's comical and it's fabulous. and it's, you know, it's drawn like you would draw an action scene. You cut from the actual action, then to a reaction shot with results from the action in that second panel. So the guy flying into the panel, that's perfect because it kind of grounds us in other characters, and you still see that there's still fighting going on, meaning this random soldier getting thrown into the picture. And then you get an out exterior shot to see the results of all this fighting, which is the bus almost going off the road. Then you check back up and you see that Thrasher's now made his way to the front of the bus, and you know it's the front of the bus because that's where the steering wheel is. And then you go to the back to the outside, and you see now Thrasher is now basically he's broken the fourth wall of this. Not really broken the fourth wall of the comic, but by shattering that front window of the bus, that's the moment in the fight that explodes, right? That it's not, now he's conquered this bus, you know, because now he's thrown everybody off, you know, he's beaten everybody on the bus. And that is signified by that driver coming out. Think about it. Frank Miller did a lot of stuff like this in Daredevil. When Daredevil would fight in the bar, they'd start a fight, then they'd cut to the outside, and what would happen? Someone would go flying through Rosie's, the window of Rosie's bar, right? And it would be some stillness, and then whoosh, the shattering would happen. You see that in movies all the time. Big fight starts, scuffle happens, you see a few of the punches, cut to outside, there's kind of tranquility, and then whammo, someone comes flying through the front window. That's what they're doing on this page. It's really fun.
Yo, Joe!
Is it over? I hope so. What did they do? Let loose a rabid grizzly bear? And at that moment, that's when Thrasher opens, because the bus now has come to a stop, and it's near where the guys were parked waiting for him. And then the door opens, and Thrasher just throws the guy outside of the window. And Crazy Legs says, it looks like they did worse than that. Wild Bill contemplates having to shoot him, which is funny, because I it's one of those, you know he's not serious, but they're just watching this in action. And before they even have to make a decision, Zorana hits him with the butt of her gun, knocking him out again. He's kind of, Thrasher's kind of like Guy Gardner here a little bit, in that Justice League mold of, you know, every time you hit him on the head, he changes personalities. So Thrasher and Guy Gardner have a lot in common. Must be why I love them both so much. But here we go. It's, so Zorana kind of in full Zorana mode saying everything's under control.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, back in Rio Lindo, now we're going to catch up on General Villavaca. I think I've been saying Villavaca, pardon me. He's going to make his escape on this seaplane. And he is he's kind of filling us in again on some of the political details. So he's telling this Villavaca that the Villavaca let the ambassador get out of the country with the secret file containing the hard evidence, so his bosses are not going to be happy with him. So he's got to hot-foot it. His recommendation is loot the treasury and head for Switzerland, because this guy's Villavaca's reign is over. And it's funny because in the matter of like 24 hours, it goes from he's ahead of this country to you got nothing. And the Villavaca says, you know, his troops are going to revolt. He'll never make it to the airport. And what's his name? His name, they give it to you later. I forget what it is here. But the North American banana monopoly guy says, send him up on a wild goose chase. Tell him the ambassador didn't get away. In other words, get the military out of your way, and you just make your getaway, because I'm out of here. So Villavaca now realizes he's got to get out because everyone's jumping ship.
Yo, Joe!
His name is like Goodwin, a Goodfellow. That's it. Chip Goodfellow, which I'm assuming is an alias. So Goodfellow is, he's filling a bag up with money, right? And he's asking for the seaplane, which is sitting outside the door. And he's asking for it to be ready to go in 2 hours. And when you cut to the pilot of the seaplane, who's rocking a beautiful blonde mullet, he's also rocking a New York Mets hat. Or, I'm sorry, Yankees hat. Sorry, pardon me. Yankees hat. Which I believe is the same type of hat that was worn in Indiana Jones, or in Raiders Lost Ark by Jock, which I was just watching the other day. It was on Paramount, as I love that movie so much. But I feel like this is a nod to Jock, who flew that seaplane in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a different type of plane. There's 3 propellers on it. Definitely in Indy, there wasn't a main propeller, but they talk about it like being an antique. It's cheap from the Nazis, when the Nazis escaped back in 1945. So it's kind of an Indiana Jones nod on this page with this dude Jock, who So here's another question for you guys. This question I've had since I was a kid. Jock, and it is Jock. When I was a kid, I heard it as Jacques, right? We're talking Raiders, Lost Ark here. There's a big snake in the plane, Jock. I heard it as Jacques when I was a kid. As an adult, I hear him. He's saying Jock, as in J-O-C-K. Big snake in the plane, Jacques. Oh, that's Joe Small Pet Snake Reggie. I hate snakes, Jacques. I hate them. Come on, show a little backbone, will you? Both accents that Jacques is putting on absolutely sound fake to my ear. And because he doesn't give a third line, but he's wearing a New York Yankees hat. So as a kid, I was like, what's going on? Is he, Jacques, because I thought it was Jacques. Jacques I knew was French, but then he puts on a British accent, but he's wearing a New York Yankees hat. And then he speaks in like New York, like, come on. It was so confusing to me as a kid. I didn't understand what was happening. And because the snake's name was Reggie, that's why he's putting on the English accent. So as an adult, I was able to kind of piece it all together, that he's putting on the English accent because the snake's name is Reggie, and that's a funny British name. His name is Jock, not Jacques, so that pulls the French out of it. And then the New York Yankee hat shows that he is a New Yorker. And obviously he's hanging out with Indy, but that didn't matter because Indy eventually was hanging out with people from all over the world. But we were watching this recently, and I was explaining this to Rebecca and my wife, and it was so confusing to me as a child. I didn't understand what was the deal with who I thought was Jacques, not Jock. If anyone else out there had this same confusion or a similar level of confusion about the character of Jacques or Jock and Reggie, why would Reggie be on all this wonderful moment in absolutely one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. And it so confused me as a kid. It absolutely confused me.
Yo, Joe!
All right, everybody, get on the bus. As Wild Bill, he's directing all the refugees because they've stolen the uniforms from all these soldiers. And it seems to be enough uniforms to cover most of the refugees and the Joes. So everyone on that bus will look like a Villakavan troop. And they hear over the radio that they want everyone to proceed to the border and seal the border because they want to detain any American, double check all identifications. And Zorana aptly points out there's no way they're going to pass as natives. I'm assuming this is because, she has giant purple hair and what have you, but that they're mostly Caucasian. And I believe, there's the rest of these guys are supposed to be Hispanic or Latin, in some nature. So they're never going to be able to just kind of get out here. It's funny. The one guy that might be able to is Thrasher. Between having, the black hair and the broken nose, he might be able to get out, but everyone else is kind of screwed. So Wild Bill, by the way, could this be Wild Bill's greatest story arc? Because I don't remember a lot of Wild Bill stories, but Wild Bill steps up in such a big way in this whole arc, taking charge, running the show. Wild Bill's fabulous. And this is awesome because Wild Bill basically grabs this dude. Hey man, what's your name? It's this guy Hidalgo. And he says, your friend saved my son, meaning Crazy Legs. That kid that was unbuckled when the plane was taking off and was going to die by being smushed. That's Hidalgo's kid. So Crazy Legs saved Hidalgo's kid in the previous one. So this guy's kind of indebted to the Joes, but it doesn't matter if he's indebted or not because Wild Bill basically says, you guys go. You'll be able to bluff your way across the border. You leave us. Don't worry about it. We're going to be okay. We want you to be safe. And then you see the little kid that Crazy Legs saved. He waves, but he's funny. He's waving at Thrasher. Thrasher didn't save him. I wonder if that's a mistake. Or did Thrasher save a kid last issue? Hold on one second. Okay, I just did a quick double check. Thrasher didn't save a kid. It totally was Crazy Legs. So I feel like this might be a mistake. This last panel. I wonder if if anyone's ever asked Larry or Ron Wagner this. Was this last panel supposed to be Crazy Legs? It's funnier, I think, to show just a moronic, broken nose Thrasher, but Thrasher and Crazy Legs both, blue, black haired, Caucasian males, maybe there's I don't know. I mean, they're different character models though, so I don't know why you would screw that up. But it's that kid that was saved by Crazy Legs, not by Thrasher, who's waving. So I feel like this might have been an error. We might have just found an error 30 years later.
Yo, Joe!
So the Joes and the Dreadnoks, the Joe Knocks, we'll call them the Joe Knocks. I like that. They start hoofing it out, Rio Lindo. And basically the plan is they used to ship out a ton of bananas. Like Wild Bill knows there's a big port. So they're just going to walk. They're going to get there. It's funny. Monkey Wrench looks totally at ease in this uniform. I feel like he either did or would have been comfortable fighting during the, like he looks like he wears this well. That Monkey Wrench. This look looks good on Monkey Wrench. He's lamenting giving the bus to the soldiers or to the citizens, and even Zorana is like, "You're pretty rare." Zorana, by the way, also comes through really nice in this arc. She was always a big favorite from the cartoon. I loved her arc with Mainframe on the show. She comes through really good here with a strong moral sense of like, hey, A, let's us cooperate with the Joes, and B, let's not get these people killed. They're not responsible for any of this foolishness that we're up to. So I like that. But as they start walking, a bus screeches up, and it's Hidalgo. And he says, "We couldn't drive off and leave you all to the unknown. Get on board. We'll drive back to Rio Lindo, and we'll find a way to get us all out." That's awesome. Hidalgo for the win.
Yo, Joe!
Meanwhile, Villavaca has said, "Take me to the treasury." So he's going to go loot the treasury, and he's going to go to Switzerland as good Chip Goodwin, or Good Skip Fellow, or whatever his name was, recommended. So as he heads inside the treasury, he sees, it's Destro and the Iron Grenadier waiting for him, along with the counter-revolutionaries. So now Villavaca knows Destro's flipped sides and he's helping them out.
Yo, Joe!
Just outside Rio Lindo, we cut back to and this is what I'm saying. He doesn't spend a lot of time on the secondary stuff. Like, he'll go, give him a little page, get you caught up, and then I'll go back to the action. The action is the bus. So now we're reenacting the movie Speed. And Zorana and Wild Bill are teamed up at the front of the bus, like Keanu and what's her name? Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. So she's driving the bus, and she crashes through this checkpoint. So now they pick up a bunch of troops that are chasing them, because they knew if they had stopped, they were all going to get shot, because there was no way they were going to actually get past that checkpoint. So Zorana's got the right idea, and they drive right through it.
Yo, Joe!
And at the treasury, Destro's like, it's like the 7 governments, actually, it's Villavaca saying the 7 previous provisional governments have looted all the money in the country. There's no money in this country. And Chip Goodfellow, he's the real loot. His company's been bleeding this country dry for generations, which I believe is the CIA. And Chip's been robbing them for years. So Destro asks, where's this guy? And now Destro finds out this guy's skipping town via the seaplane down at the docks. So Destro's going to get his. Because remember, he's the prophet. What is it? Prophet domineering Destro, Pimp Daddy. He's the prophet domineering Destro, guys. So they're going to ride the truck, and the general's going to go with him. And the Iron Grenadier is going to keep an eye on him to keep him in line.
Yo, Joe!
This is a great shot. It's a half-page spread, splash page, and it's all the Joes and the Dreadnoks all hanging out the side, shooting at the Villavaca troops that are chasing them. There's chickens getting, thrown out the way from the bus. The bus is coming up a hill, so it's like the camera's at a low angle. This is a fabulous shot. There's depth to it. There's backgrounds. There's secondary civilians watching it, in shock and horror. This is actually a really, really good shot. And then you even get the traditional movie angles of establishing a shot of the action. Cut to our hero, he's pointing, shooting to the left. Cut to the bad guys, they're shooting to the right. All on this page. This is actually a really good page for action. The pose that Wild Bill in is fabulous. This general with the Elvis sideburns, he's screaming. He's trying to get a hold of Villavaca, but Villavaca is not answering.
Yo, Joe!
So now Bob is the pilot, the jock pilot that we were talking about earlier. He's doing his pre-flight check. And Chip Goodfellow is like, can't you hurry it up? And he says there's no pilot in the world who takes off without giving his aircraft a pre-flight walk-around. He calls it a pre-float walk-around because he's actually, it's a seaplane. He's floating on a little inner tube, etc., and so on and so forth. And he doesn't realize the urgency, we'll say, that Goodfellow is under. Because across town, Destro and Villavaca, they're in this pickup truck, and they're heading towards there. And they're kind of like, well, the rebel leader, whose name is escaping me, I apologize, says, it sounds like Goodfellow may have been the source of much corruption in my country. And Destro says he had plenty of help of the homegrown variety. So you let the vipers in to your home, right? You vote in the criminals. You allow the real dirtbags. You give them power. They can't just take it from you. At some point in the operation, it's given to these people, and then they welcome in other, more evil forces. So this whole country was just drained dry by the greed of individuals from that country themselves.
Yo, Joe!
Bus still racing through the city, and we come into an intersection here. So the bus is certainly hitting a lot of cars along the way, random cars. There's a lot of traffic jams. This is a little bit like Fast and the Furious when they were down in South America. And as they hit a busy intersection, and this is fun. So you can follow the action pretty well. The bus racing, and then there's military jeeps, and it's nice that they're military jeeps because it separates them from the other cars on the road, so we as the viewers can keep track of what's happening. And they're coming up to a busy intersection, which is denoted by Wild Bill, and everyone in that panel is looking to the right, and behind them, because they're being pursued, are the Villavaca's troops also looking to the right? So you keep the camera perspective in the same direction because it's a chase. They're not going head to head. These two, they're actually cutting. They're chasing after each other. And in this intersection is where they come across the pickup truck that had Destro's crew in it. It's a little unclear, a little bit, right, that this is Destro's crew because they couldn't have Destro's car. So you couldn't draw this first car having actual Destro in it, right? Because the car that hits the bus, because it basically, as they're cutting through the intersection, they run into Destro's convoy. But the accident that happens it actually doesn't hit the bus. We'll see on the next page.
Yo, Joe!
Destro's lead pickup actually hits the lead chase Jeep from Villavaca's troops, right? And in the pickup are the rebels. So Villavaca's lead general, he gets out of the wrecked Jeep and he's like, what are you doing with the counter-revolutionaries? And he gets so upset that he thinks he's selling them out. So he actually shoots and kills Villavaca right there on the streets of downtown Rio Lindo. But the reason you couldn't have Destro be in that first car is because, is that? See, I think I guess it is the same car. See, this doesn't work for me. So it feels like there should be two trucks. It's a little, so I'm working through this, guys. No, it is two. There's totally two trucks because there's another green Jeep behind it. But then they sort of draw Destro on the first truck is destroyed, right? And it's the second truck that has Destro, and that's the one with the general in it. And as it drives by, that's when the general gets shot, and then Destro takes off. The logistics of it they're easy to follow, but they're not super key important. But it is a little confusing because the general is not in the back of the truck. The lead, the general's definitely in the secondary truck. Sorry for the confusion, but I'm just trying to work through it. So it is a little bit confusing as you read, like who's hitting who, what's hitting what. They are definitely different colors green, which is super important. And they're absolutely different kinds of trucks. One's a Jeep, one's a Toyota pickup truck.
Yo, Joe!
That wasn't confusing enough for you. I apologize. So now the bus gets to the dock. And Wild Bill and Zorana they see, and Wild Bill calls it a Bloem and Voss seaplane. He thinks that it's ready for takeoff. And the bus actually stops by driving through a chain link fence and hitting a whole bunch of bananas, which is funny because it's North American banana monopoly, and they talk about shipping a ton of bananas out of there earlier, and that's how he knows about the seaplane takeoff. So they're just going to steal the seaplane. They tell everybody to get on board, and Maverick's going to fly the plane.
Yo, Joe!
So as they're loading people on, that's when this Bob guy, the pilot with the New York hat, he comes scooching around on his inner tube because he was doing his pre-flight check, and Wild Bill sees him. Actually, Wild Bill asks him, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm the pilot of this crate. Who are you?" And Bill asks him, "Hey, did you just complete your walk around?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. Thanks, partner." And he closes the door, and they steal this plane. It's perfect comedy timing, absolute perfect comedic timing. Because then, as the plane takes off, Destro shows up, and the Iron Grenadier is on the machine gun, and he starts shooting at the seaplane as it's taking off. If you look closely, you see Bob jumping off his inner tube into the water to avoid getting shot. It's pretty great.
Yo, Joe!
Maverick is, he's like, Wild Bill, you want the stick? It's funny because now we're flying a plane. Well, Wild Bill flew the C-132. And Wild Bill's like, yeah, I've always wanted to fly one of these babies. So they take off. Destro's very upset. This is, it's actually, these pencils are real loose. This really does feel like layouts by Ron Wagner, because some of these pages are a lot looser than others. They certainly look good, but this one's real loose. Like, look at the Destro on this page as he crunches his fist into the hood of the pickup truck with anger. And because he thinks Chip Goodfellow was on that plane with all that money, and Destro wants that money. He wants that Skrilla.
Yo, Joe!
And he'd be right. So Wild Bill tells everybody to buckle in, and Thrasher is still like going through trauma. Thrasher is just traumatized in all of this, and now he's got he's developed a weird lisp, probably because his nose is broken. He says, "I had a very bad experience on my last flight." Sounds like he's bit his tongue off. Zorana's telling him to shut up and get buckled in, because he never buckles in, but he needs air. Guy can't breathe. As the plane, and this is cool because they actually have to foreshadow what happens here. He says, "I need to open a window," and someone says, probably Zorana, but someone says, "The windows don't open. If they did, everything that wasn't strapped down would be sucked out by the airstream when we reach cruising speed. Just cool out." And after that is, that's when Chip Goodfellow makes his appearance. He comes bursting out of what I'm assuming is the bathroom. I don't know where he was hiding. Because remember, they also have 30 refugees on this plane, so the plane's got to be packed. But he comes busting out. He's got a briefcase full of loot. He's got an Uzi in one hand, and Thrasher is just unhappy with the situation.
Yo, Joe!
So Thrasher unbuckles his belt, and he just throws a shoulder into Chip Goodfellow. And as that happens, he kicks open the door because he wants to breathe some air. And as the door kicks open, Chip Goodfellow, the briefcase full of loot, and Thrasher get sucked out of the airplane, as predicted in the previous page. And Crazy Leg calls him a geek, which is weird. It's a weird, weird thing to call him at this point. And Thrasher replies, "Well, I like you too." And Wild Bill's like, "Someone close that door. It's getting pretty drafty up here." The end. A wonderfully fun arc in Sierra Gordo. I really, really do genuinely enjoy this. Critique-wise, I feel like these last few pages were truncated. I feel like this ending could have been like one page longer, but it's also got that fun feeling. I actually recently watched the movie Out of Towners, and if you've ever seen it, it's just a series of obstacles that get in the way, of Jack Lemmon and his wife as they try to get to New York. It's just like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But at the very end of the movie, you think they're home free, and then their plane gets hijacked and is going to be flown to Cuba, and then the movie ends. Like, that's the feeling I got from this, which is a lot of fun. Of, okay, they're finally on a plane. Oh no, here's a good fellow with an Uzi. And then, oh no, now they don't have a door. Okay, well they're going to be all right. They're going to make it to America, or is something else going to go wrong? It's cool. I'm curious. I don't remember so when they go home, do they ever resolve because this definitely is like the end of this arc. Like, this is a great end to the arc. I don't need any kind of follow-up on it at all. But if you think about the logistics of it, 3 Joes are on a plane with 3 Dreadnoks. They're all wanted. I'm assuming they're going to fly to some neighboring country, land. Everyone will just be cool and go their separate ways. They're not going to fly this like all the way to Florida or something like that, and land in U.S. soil together. So I'm assuming that's what's happening. But, there is a story to be told. What happened when they landed, and how did they all make their peace and get away? So I love it. This was really great, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I do. Remember, just be good to each other. Follow me on social. Keep reading G.I. Joe. Keep watching G.I. Joe. Keep collecting G.I. Joe. And now you, Joe. And Joeing is half the battle.